because when we see, and I'm hearing news coming out of the Middle East and stuff that just is so barbaric and so tragic, and so the atrocities, the only word that I can use is atrocities that are happening all over the place. It brings to me some thoughts of, where is God? And I know Christians all over the world are asking that question. Why? Why God? Why would God let this happen? And so I think some people come to a realization, or they come to this self-diagnose thing of God, where it's God is a couple of things. Either, and I called them the big four. God is either not strong enough, not good enough, doesn't care enough, or isn't real enough for these situations. Because like it's somehow some people compartmentalize how bad things happen in this world where there is a good God. So what do you guys say to the people that are struggling with God's not strong enough, good enough, cares enough, or real enough to deal with the atrocities that are happening all over this world?
Yeah, so it's funny. I don't know all the time. And so like I think that's probably one thing that we could all just admit right out of the gate, like even as we continue the conversation, is like I think for me personally, I can talk a lot from my own experiences and what I've seen God do in my own life and lives of the ones around me, that for me checks the boxes that I believe he's all four of these things. I think what's really hard to wrestle through is when you don't know how to make it reconcile that there's still bad stuff in the world. And so like, I very much believe God is all four of these things. And that has to live next to the fact that on this side of heaven, terrible things happen every day that I just will never understand. And with or without action, may not be able to do anything with.
Yeah. That's a paradox.
Yeah.
Like where God can be good and he can be strong enough, but you cannot understand.
Yeah.
And not understanding is not something that I think we as humans do well.
Yeah.
I think not understanding, we paradox we don't sit well in, because you can't, prop your feet up and feel comfortable in it.
Yeah. And even just listening to you talk, Joanna, like I think about how so many times, like this is all I see in life. This is all that I see in life. This is all I see in history. This is all I see within the world. And part of this is trusting that God sees it all.
Yeah.
And so even though I just see this like microcosm of time and space and place, like God in his grand vision sees reality. And I've got to trust that he is good. He is enough. He does care. He is real. Even whenever this moment, it doesn't make sense to me. I think back to like whenever, like this reveals to me what I expect from God in my reality. Because if I think this world, this time, this place is the design, then all of a sudden I'm like, yo, the design's broken. Like this, in the right design, this shouldn't be going this way. So if I think this is supposed to be paradise, then yeah, he messed it up.
Right.
He's absent. But if I put this in the perspective of what it actually is, that we're not in paradise, we're actually in the middle of a battle between this world and the next, like the spiritual forces are at war in this world, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't the beach, this is Normandy. This is a battle zone. This isn't. And then if you're expecting a battle zone, it looks different than if you're expecting a luxury beach.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No,
Yeah, totally.
I think that helps me process, Matt, to be honest. And I think I want to go a little bit further. I want to stay there for a second, because I think that truth can cover a multitude of these questions. So like, how do you maintain your faith and hope when confronted with persistent evil in this world? So where does the evil come from, Matt? Let's just talk about it for a second. Where does the evil come from? And how do you process when you see evil in this world? So I guess what I'm asking is, can you elaborate a little bit on that brokenness that you described?
So I think one of the things that I've had to come to grasp with is Satan is real. Like evil is real. We're told in Peter that he is a roaming lion looking for who he can devour. And like, I think we're naive if we think he's not real. But I think Satan is actively at work to bring destruction and chaos. And so we see the effects of that all around us. And we've also got to realize that this world, so God, back to the biblical story, I mean, we all know that God created the garden. Everything was perfect. And then sin enters, the world breaks, as it was designed is broken, the relationship is tattered, and all of a sudden what was is no more. And so we have to realize that we're in the fallout of that. And so we're in the middle of a broken battle where God is actively coming to restore, to redeem, to rescue, and we're not rescued yet. Like we're not redeemed yet. And so there's still bombs flying, and there's still hatred in there, and there's still hurt happening. And so for me, the coexistence of evil and God is not where is God or why is evil. It's I'm not saying, God, why is this happening? I'm saying God thinks that you're even close, thinks that you're even coming near, because God didn't have to show back up. Like this is the mess we caused. This is the mess that our sinfulness brought about. And God isn't the one sitting there going, yo, you messed it up, I'm out. He's the one who's saying, no, let me come close. Let me get near.
You know, I think that's it in a nutshell. Is I think it has something to do with it's less about God and more about us. And I think our it's interesting when things are good, we don't ask why God.
Yeah.
We just don't. When things are great and peaceful and loving, we don't go like, "What, God? Why do we deserve this?" But when things are bad, when things are wicked, when things are evil, we ask God why.
Yeah, I mean that was Job's whole story.
Yeah.
You know, where it was like, hey, like I feel like essentially God just said like you just can't kill him, right? And so the enemy did so many things short of that. And it's crazy just when you read at different points of like Job's story and even his conversations with God, like it gets pretty dark. He asks some pretty big questions, but to me it's mind-blowing that like his faith had to have been enough that he kept talking to God.
Even with
like that's incredible.
It's incredible. And even like with Job's story, like I can hear the story of Job and be like, God, why are you such a jerk to Job?
Right.
If I'm looking at it from Job's perspective.
Yep.
But if I'm Job saying, here's my life, use me. Here's my life, God, I'm offering it to you. God's like, all right, I'm going to use your life in a way that you're going to hate, but generations will be affected by your story. And so if we're saying, God, use me for my good, then we're going to be disappointed. If we say, God, I trust you, use me for your good, then he might take us to hell and back like Job. But Job's story has been so much hope, so much like comfort to so many people since then. And it's Job saying, okay, my life doesn't matter. Your story does, God. And that's the grander perspective of narrowing my view or expanding my view from the little bit I see.
Yep. And even in Job's time, in his narrow story, he still ended up with huge blessings.
Totally.
After a massively horrible trial that I couldn't even fathom, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like for us to keep God in the conversation, like you were sharing, Matt, like that's the heart posture of like, I don't understand God, but just please stay close, you know? And anyway, how many Psalms of David is just like, he was pouring his heart out, but God was still close. He's near to the brokenhearted. Like, I don't know, David, like that was just very much his song too. And so, yeah, the gratefulness that God's close, even if you don't understand.
And you know, it reminds me of when I'm watching someone paint a painting. So if you've ever watched an artist paint a painting and you see only what he's painting now, but you don't see what he's going to paint. You don't see the grand picture. And a lot of us, our lives are like that. And we go through tragedy and we haven't seen the final product, but we want to judge it. We want to dictate it on just what we see.
Yeah.
And
I mean, how Bob Ross goes from a blank canvas to a magical landscape in 30 minutes or less. Talk about another thing I don't understand.
Joanna, that's exactly it. Is sometimes Bob Ross, I'll be watching Bob Ross paint, and you know, he'll have these beautiful trees and stuff, and all of a sudden he's like slashing it with black, and I'm like, oh, you ruined it, Bob.
It's like Bert Umber enters the picture, and you don't know where he's going with it.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, you know, he ruined it. But I'm not the artist, and I don't know what he's doing.